Ipinggaon daun, bibili mo kafan diga so ganito ka to tektagan.
Hello, I'm Jeff Gabriel with the Eastern Sierra Interpretive Association, and I have two great guests this morning. I have Kara and Casey, our this year's season climbing rangers. So, started off with you, Casey. Welcome to the Eastern Sierra Interpretive Association show.
Happy to be here.
Great. So, can you explain a little bit about what the climbing ranger program is?
Yeah, so we provide education and outreach to all the visiting climbers that come to the area. Bishop sees tens of thousands of visitors that come here every year to come and climb. We also do some stewardship events, and this year is the 5th year that the program has been in operation.
Great. All right. Thank you. Kara, welcome.
Hi, thank you.
So, a question for you. So, the climbing ranger program, is it unique or is it not unique in the sense of being a part of here in the Eastern Sierra?
Yeah, there are other climbing ranger programs in climbing areas. So Yosemite has it, Joshua Tree has it. But the Eastern Sierra program is unique in the fact that we aren't a government agency. We aren't run by government agencies. We work for the Eastern Sierra Interpretive Association. So that does create some opportunity to bridge the gaps between those intergovernment agencies, which opens the door for us to do a lot of programs.
Great. All right. So, Casey, why do we need a climbing ranger program? I mean, is there, you would think climbers are good stewards, and but what's the value of having a climbing ranger program?
Yeah, so like I said before, the area sees tens of thousands of visitors every year. It's a high desert, pretty sensitive, fragile, environment out there, and so it can really see the impacts from all these visitors coming in. Climbing is only, it's really exploded in popularity the last few years with, climbing gyms coming about. It's really made the sport accessible to a lot of people, and a lot of the visitors that we get to the area, they've never, haven't really hiked before, haven't camped outside before, and so, they aren't really aware of, proper outdoor ethics, leave no trace, and, just how to, responsibly recreate in such a really sensitive area.
Okay. So, so for you, this is your second season as a climbing ranger. So, from last year's experience, what do you and Kara plan to do differently this year with regard to interacting with the climbers? I mean, what things had you learned last year that might have an opportunity for you to be able to maybe do something a little bit differently?
Yeah, so one of the big parts of our jobs is making contacts with the public. We're going out and patrolling around, and just generally, our methods of approaching people, how to get the positive interaction coming in, not to a lot of people, they see climbing ranger and then they're a little put on guard because they think they're going to get in trouble, and trying to go up and say, hey, we're climbers too, and we're out here recreating on our off days just like you, and we love this area and we want to protect it, and enjoy it just as much as you do. So yeah, come with it at that approach.
All right, sounds good. So Kara, I think Casey has mentioned the amount of climbers that we do have here.
Yeah.
So how are the highs and lows with regard to the visitation of climbers? And I guess probably one question would be, why now? I mean, at what part of this time of the year do we need the climbing rangers?
Yeah, well, the winter season is the big climbing season in this area because the temperatures get low, things get dry, there's more friction on the rocks. It makes climbing way more accessible and less slippery and scary feeling. So that's what draws people to this area during this season. And so in the summers, there are people out recreating, but there isn't so much impact, and it makes it really important to have us out there, like Casey was saying, making connections, being out there to just help educate and create bonds between all of these people during the winter season when thousands and thousands of people are coming here just to touch the rocks around here.
All right. So one of the things that I know has happened in the past is stewardship projects.
Right.
So planning for, again, this year, what type of projects do you think you have in the works that one may engage some of the climbers and as well maybe teach that stewardship concept?
Yeah. Well, there are lots of exciting stewardship things that we're planning on doing this season. One thing that we're planning on doing is different projects to rehabilitate the land. So we're trying to get rid of the Russian, is it Russian?
Russian thistle, yeah.
Okay, thank you. The Russian thistle. Okay, so we're planning on doing a lot to try to get rid of the Russian thistle that is starting to take over in the tablelands. We also are trying to do a lot more educational programs with the elementary school age kids. So programs with 4th graders, programs with 5th graders, which we're really excited about, to get out into the school systems, to start kids in this area early, really understanding how fragile the ecosystem is, and that just walking out there and playing can have an impact, and how we can manage that and responsibly recreate, like Casey was saying. We're also going to try to do programs once a month with the tribe, which we're really excited about, to really, create that stewardship in our community in collaboration with the tribe. So monthly stewardship programs with them. Yeah, we're really excited.
That is. Oh, wow. That is going to be great. So Casey, looking at the Climbing Ranger program and it's in its 5th season, do you ever envision a point at which we wouldn't need a Climbing Ranger program, or do you think it's going to be something that we need to do year after year?
I think it's going to definitely be a thing that we need year after year, and that's just, every season the land feels the impacts from all these people. We need to be out there actively restoring. Climbing's only gaining popularity. We're going to still see new users coming out to these areas to recreate, and we need to be out there to, educate these folks. Especially, everybody coming from the gyms where they don't, they just don't know. A lot of the impacts we see are from no-meaning people that, just don't know.
So it might be, if you want to expand just a little bit more about when you reference gyms, what exactly does that mean? I mean, some might think of a gymnasium in a elementary school, but it means something differently. What is, define a little bit of what the gym?
Yeah, so a climbing gym are, these big tall walls that have these, hard plastic holds that go up, and, they're in all of the major cities. I'm sure LA has, a dozen of these. And it's a really accessible way for people to get into the sport. You can go in and get instruction, and you can do it safely. And so we see a lot of, new climbers that got their start in the gyms, and then they want to come out to Bishop for their first time. It's a really accessible area for people to come out here and, do their first outdoor climbs.
Wow. So. All right. Okay. Thank you for that. So Kara,
Yeah.
Looking at climbing into the future, as I was kind of talked about needing the climbing rangers so we continue, but obviously its popularity has been very strong. You have it now a part of the Olympics.
Right.
So looking 5 years from now, what would be climbing in the sense of very popular or maybe unpopular, or exactly how do you see the trends? Because you're talking about people can go to a gym and...
I mean, I don't think the trends are going anywhere. I think the impact of the Olympics is just that it does increase visibility. It increases the amount of people that are like, what is this thing? I'm interested in getting to do it. But yeah, I don't think climbing popularity is going to decrease at all. I think we're going to have more people going to those gyms, like Casey was saying, and that's wonderful. And it means that there's so many more people that are going to fall in love with this sport. But recognizing that gym climbing and outdoor climbing are very different, and bridging that gap, the climbing that's in the Olympics, speed climbing, bouldering, things like that, in gyms are really different than what they can do when they access it outside. And there's not always a lot of education about the difference between those two things, which can be detrimental when then people with no experience in the outdoors, or no knowledge of how to do that safely in the outdoors, can come out, and that can cause accidents. It can cause detriment to the environment. Trail maintenance, just simple things like staying on a trail aren't things that people always know. And so I think that, the increase in popularity is going to continue, and that's why it's going to be so much more important for programs like Climbing Rangers, educational like Gym to Crag programs and things like that, to help make people able to safely and knowledgeably recreate outside in a way that's not going to hurt them, hurt somebody else, or hurt the environment.
Wow. Great. Well, Casey and Kara, thank you very much for
Yeah.
being here today. I am Jeff Gabriel with the Eastern Sierra Interpretive Association. Educate, inspire, explore.
Why choose us? Because our success is determined by your success. Our job is to promote you. With our combined success, we foster an after-school programs teaching, broadcasting, writing, TV, and film. We help each other and teach future generations. Call us at 760-914-9883, extension 2.
Welcome, I'm Chris Langley, and today we have Eye on Inyo Museums, and we're going to determine what the name of this museum is once and for all. I have Kevin Frey here from the museum in Lone Pine, and what is the name we should call this museum?
Right now, the name is the New Coso Heritage
That's what it says on the
Museum
sign, I know.
/ Darwin Museum.
Right,
Darwin is where this museum originated.
right. So all the locals call it the Darwin Museum, or occasionally the Southern Inyo.
Southern
Museum.
Inyo Museum and the Bug Museum is very popular,
Yes.
especially with the locals because of our
And the
wonderful-
bugs are dead. Let's be clear on that. They're not running around the floor, or are they?
No, they're not running around the floor.
Okay,
they
good.
are dead.
Good.
But
This
they're-
is a kind of a hidden gem in Lone Pine that a lot of people don't know about until they kind of fall into it. And we're going to be talking about that today because it's really an amazing little museum. Where is it? First of all, what's the address?
It's at 127 Bush Street in Lone Pine, and which is right next door to the Lone Pine Library.
Yeah, and that's the easiest way to find
That's
it.
the
It's-
easiest
yeah.
way to find
It's
it.
just it's less than one block off of the main street.
That's correct. It's right in the middle of the block. It's the first building you come to on the
Yeah.
right-hand side.
And it's really a beautiful little old building.
is.
I don't know the origin of it or anything.
It's a county-owned building that our president and leader of the museum, Marlene Cierniak, when she found out that it was necessary to bring the museum to Lone Pine from Darwin because the building there was just not capable anymore of handling it. So she secured this building through the county.
And
there-
she's also a realtor, so she
She
would
is,
know
so she knew how
the
to do
buildings
it.
and stuff. Yes. She's a leader is the least of it, sort of.
Yes.
I've known Marlene for I don't know how many years, but decades, and she is just a civic leader in our town
Yes,
as well.
very much so. She's a terrific person.
Yeah. Okay, so we've established that it's a gem and that it's just off Main Street next to the library. And what would you like people to know about it? What are some of the exhibits? What's its mission, basically?
We're trying to preserve, a lot of the heritage that in Inyo County that is more and more, we're losing more and more every year. And so we're trying to preserve as much as possible in a very small space.
Yeah.
One of the most common comments that we get from people, even the locals especially, they come in and they say, I've been here 20 years. It's the first time I've walked into this.
Yeah.
We get that a lot.
Yeah.
And they love it. They just, oh my goodness, well, like you said, it's a gem.
Yeah.
And
And the exhibits are very effective. I was just in there talking to Marlene, and I was impressed. I've been in there before, and Irene Kritz was
Yes.
also, she happened to be sitting there in the afternoon, and she loves to tell stories, and she's written books about
Very- yes.
her as a packer and all that kind of stuff. So she
Absolutely.
was very interesting.
we have quite a few local authors, and their books are for sale
Yeah.
inside our museum. We're
Linda
very proud
Hahn,
of
I
that.
saw that, and several different
Yeah,
ones.
and they're great writers. They're
Yeah.
terrific writers. The books that sell themselves, really.
So what are a couple of the exhibits and the things that people would see? And then we'll talk about
Okay.
new exhibits that you're planning, and then an event. We'll end up with the event that's going to happen during the film festival.
Okay. Our most popular one, I think, is the bug exhibit, and many people refer to our museum as the Bug Museum, but that's a misnomer. But we do have a wonderful bug exhibit that was donated by Lee Gonzalez, and it's a really nice entomology of Inyo County, and we have some examples of, and when I say bugs,
Now, this
spiders and snakes. And
was he a
ants.
collector? I mean, this was a hobby, I assume. I didn't know the origin. I knew he had given it to the museum, but
Yes, and he did all of the preserving work on it. That he captured all of it, and we have a few examples from Brazil, I think, of some spiders, but there's a really nice section of snakes that are all native to this area, the western states, and even ants, tiny little ants. Quite a collection of ants and butterflies and you name it. What if it's around, if it's biting you or bothering you, we have
lots of bugs.
Yes, we do.
A lot of boring bugs,
Yeah,
like hundreds of thousands
Exactly,
of millions
yeah.
of bugs. But
So and it's a great place for teachers will bring their little classes down for a field trip, and we welcome that. And what kid doesn't like to walk through a room full of
bugs,
preserved bugs and other critters, right?
right?
So we have that. We have a nice little exhibit from World War One. A local family donated, I believe it was the Burkhart family, donated some artifacts that were handed down over the generations from World War One. And we have a correspondence exhibit from the World War II era, how they got the news out, and we have copies of original newspapers back in the day.
I see. I think that's the one that you designed, wasn't it? I saw it.
Marlene and I put it together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was like the sinking of the Titanic and all
right,
different things
right.
like that. It was very interesting.
Right. And and we have some
Well
of the
preserved. I don't know if any of them were reproductions. There was one particular one that looked almost brand new.
most of them are reproductions, but
yeah.
they're from the right time, and it's reproduced 100%.
Yeah.
The inside stories are all the same.
It was really very
nice
neat
to see.
Yeah.
And mining, of course, which began. That's how it all began. And the Darwin, we have lots of artifacts, photos, many stories in writing about Darwin itself, and Darwin French, who founded the town.
Mm-hmm.
We have a lot of history about that. And then we want to get into what we're talking about for next season is expanding the mineral rocks, gems, minerals, mining part of it. We're going to hopefully have temporary exhibits such as we're talking about the Pacific Crest Trail, the John Muir Trail, how it was built, when it was built, and who built it, and the people that have been on it and plan on being on it. And there's such it's such a tribute to our area that we want to have an exhibit about that.
I was involved with the film museum, and your collection is really. I'm always looking at the museum's collection. I was very impressed that you had such a really wonderful collection on display.
Mm-hmm.
And how are you going to have to take things out to do new things, or how will that work?
Yeah, we're trying to figure that out.
Oh, okay.
We might have to.
It's not the biggest space in the world.
It's not. It's very compact, and so we have to be smart about how we do things. So we may move some things out temporarily and then move them back in, and then we'll work on something else. We want to get have more information about the Carson, Colorado Railroad, which is based out of Independence, but they've done terrific work restoring that locomotive, and there's so much history there too. And we want to do focus on that sometime next season as well.
Yeah, you know that the Eastern California Museum just got a very large grant of $360,000 to reimagine their exhibits, and maybe
that's terrific.
You can be aware of that and partner with them on some
Well, I
projects.
certainly enjoy going into their museum every chance I get.
Yeah.
It's just down the street from where I live. So
Right. Oh, okay.
They do a great job.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
Other things that we should know. What about what's coming up on the for the film festival?
The film festival weekend is pretty much our season finale. This museum is.
Are you closed after that?
We close after that. This museum is open 3 days a week, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, from 9 to 5, and from May to October, and pretty much when the film museum happened, or I'm sorry, not museum,
the festival.
The festival is going on. That's usually our finale right there. So we're going to be having some fun with gold panning, teaching how to gold pan and doing demonstrations, and gem and mineral panning for the little ones. Lots of sparklies.
Wow.
And things like that. And we'll be showing how the prospectors' old techniques versus new techniques.
Will that be ongoing during the weekend, in other words, or is it one time?
We're going to settle that, I think, in a few days. We've got a meeting coming up, and we've got to decide if we're going to be able to do it no more than 2 days, I would imagine, but hopefully the whole weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just depends on everybody's schedule, because we rely so much on volunteers.
So let's advertise for volunteers. Why don't you talk about what a volunteer does and how the museum is funded?
Well, we certainly do need more volunteers. And typically, like I said, we're only open from May to October, and 3 days a week. So we are always searching for people who can maybe give us 4 hours of their time per week is all we ask. And so if anybody wants to get involved and try to and come in and help us make a little bit of a difference, and what we do is we just greet people as they come in, try to answer any questions that they might have, and everybody's so interested in the history of Inyo County.
A lot of storytelling.
A lot of storytelling goes
Story
on.
in the sense of
from both
nonfiction.
sides.
Yeah, but
from the visitors
Yeah,
as well.
yeah.
They'll say, well, I just recently had a family from Southern California came in, and they said, oh, our grandfather was involved in this, and you have an exhibit right there. So lots of stories come and go, and we meet people from all over the world. It's terrific. And many times they don't speak a word of English.
So what do you do then? Use hand signals?
We talk louder.
Oh,
Right.
That's a good solution.
No, we make it work.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
it's fun. So to meet these people, and they try to ask their questions, and we make it work. We find ways to communicate.
How about funding? How is the museum funded? It's by donation.
This is 100% funding is by private donations and by visitors putting money in the jar.
So there is no charge
It's
required.
completely free to come in. There's no obligation whatsoever, except to sometimes we refer to it as the cost of admission is sign our guest book.
Oh, okay.
And that's all we ask of everybody. So we know where they're from and all the places in the world that they come from. And it's a lot of fun. And 4 hours goes by so fast.
How did you get involved with the museum? I don't know too much about you. You live in Independence.
I was one of those people who walked in there and said, I've lived here 20 years and I've never walked in the door. And one day I said, I'm going to walk in, and guess who I met? Marlene. and
and your fate was
well, that was a couple of
determined.
years ago, and it was right at the end of the season, and I had told myself I'm going to come down here. I was about ready to retire, and I was going to come down and volunteer.
Retire from?
I retired from the sheriff's department.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was a dispatcher.
Oh, okay.
And so, but then when the new season came along, of course, COVID was here, and it just threw a monkey wrench into the whole thing. So this year, I was in town and saw that the open sign was out. And so I walked in, and Marlene was sitting there again. She's there a lot. And I told her, I says, I want to volunteer. And it was that easy. So, and I've enjoyed every minute of it.
Good. So you're a walking advertisement for being a volunteer at the museum.
Well, it just really feels good to volunteer your time instead of, sitting at home.
The museum is a wonderful presentation. I was just very impressed with the different exhibits, and it is not a gigantic space. So to see all of that is really wonderful. So I recommend anyone, either a tourist or a local, could go in there. And if you're local, maybe you would volunteer for hours a week to take care of it. And it's fun, the people you meet. I could tell from Irene talking about what it was like for her 4 hours. So
yeah, it just goes so quick. And like I said, if anybody can, feel like donating 4 hours a week of their time, we can certainly use the help. And for those that can't, we're happy to see you anytime. Bring your family when they come up to visit.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you're wondering, well, what are we going to do today? And maybe before you get pizza or something like that, come on into the museum for a few minutes. And
I'll have to bring my sons. My two sons grew up here, and I don't know if they've ever been in the museum. So I'll ask
There you
them.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They could be one of those people that for 20 years didn't go in there.
We have things for sale. We have the shirts and hats and, of course, the books that we talked about earlier, and some nice gifts and souvenirs and postcards. And it's just, when they walk out of there, they feel like they've had a nice time.
Well, Kevin, thank you for coming in. We have heard a lot about the Bug Museum. That's my favorite name for it. It's sort of a nickname more than it, but it's very accurate since there's lots of bugs preserved there. That's all other kinds of history. And I really recommend you go in there if you want to know more about our area, because there's lots to learn.
Absolutely. We'd love to see everybody come in.
Thank you. I'm Chris Langley, and I appreciate you watching.